yelling is a nasty thing. It's a nasty thing. Nobody likes being yelled at, whether you're being yelled at by your spouse, whether you're a child being yelled at by your parent, yelled at by your boss, whether you're an athlete being yelled at violently by your coach. Yelling is not a helpful thing in our society, in our human experience. Now, I'm going to tell you some tips here on how to stop yelling. Now, these are going to be actually life-changing, deep things. If you go on Google right now and just Google how to stop yelling or how to manage my anger, you're going to get some helpful but kind of some cheesy advice like breathing or some things like take a walk. I mean, so ridiculous. I'm going to help you understand here, whether you're here with me live or watching this recording, yelling really briefly here today in a new way, so that you can then just be the best person you can be. You can understand your own emotions in new ways, but also remember, parents are teachers in every home is a school, so you can have a greater awareness and self-awareness around yelling. So when your kids who might struggle with yelling or aggression, then you can coach them. You can teach them through this. So here's 5 tips I have on how to stop yelling. One is you've got to convince yourself. Number one, step one, you've got to convince yourself this does not work. Yelling doesn't work. Now, people are not stupid. We are not stupid. We do what we want to do. We do what feel is right, and we do what feel works. There's been countless amount of parents who are yelling at their kids right now, and then they say to themselves, oh, it's the only thing that works with that kid. It doesn't work. Now, yelling is, think of like you have this invisible parenting toolbox. It's just a tool in the bag, but it's not a helpful tool. It's like a lame tool. It's like, imagine like some 85-year-old grandpa right now working in his shed, and he's trying to build some stuff, and his tools are like from the 50s, and they're all janky, and they're all broken down. You kind of want to go up to the guy and be like, hey, old man, here's a gift card. Go down to the Home Depot and get yourself some electric tools. You got to upgrade that stuff. Yelling is a tool, and it is outdated. It is not helpful, and there are so many better tools. Now, getting mad and yelling at your kids when they make mistakes doesn't teach them to not make mistakes. It teaches them to hide their mistakes. Getting mad and yelling at your kids when they make mistakes doesn't teach them to care for your feelings. It teaches them you do not have feelings to care for. Getting mad and yelling at your kids doesn't teach them to be more thoughtful and to be more selfless. It teaches them that you are thoughtless and you are selfish. And I say that because I'm speaking to myself and I'm speaking to us with this level of intensity that I use to help people to realize our yelling is a manifestation of our own selfishness. Oh my gosh, parents, aren't human beings such selfish beings? If I were to break out this document right here, which I give to all my clients, and if you're in the Parents Club or in Family 180, you have this. And let me just read some of these things off our reactions. This is what lovely, normal parents do. We all do these things. This is just on one page where we invalidate people, where we put them down, we isolate, we judge, we lecture our kids, we manipulate, we minimize, we play innocent victim, we nag, pester, we remind, we name call, cuss out, swear. We have negative thoughts about somebody. We have negative body language. We people please. We give them a pep talk or a life lesson, scolding. We have passive aggressive behavior. Are you seeing how these are just things that people who are in a selfish place do, right? Are you seeing this? This is not us in our best behavior. This is when we're in that selfish ego, that self-protection. I want it my way. So what am I going to do? I'm going to yell. I'm going to rewrite history. I'm going to argue with you. You're wrong and I'm right. We're going to rationalize. We're going to bother. We're going to poke. We're going to play dumb. We're going to have righteous anger. So to really put yelling, this pattern of yelling or using your anger in a negative way behind you, you've got to first convince yourself, this is not working. This is me. This is a physical representation, a physical manifestation of my own selfishness and how far I'm willing to go to get what I want. I will hurt people in my path to get what I want, even children. Gosh, when you say it like that, it's just kind of chilling, isn't it? It's haunting. And again, I'm speaking to you and I'm begging you to please stop yelling at your kids. Stop yelling at the people you love. Start making this change in your life. And I'm also speaking to myself. You might pick up a book one day and it might say how to stop yelling, but that's actually not the book you actually need. The book you actually need if you've got a serious addiction or a pattern of yelling is a book that maybe is titled How to Stop Being Selfish. If you think about that, right? Parenting is never about what it's about. And yelling is a great example of that. Yelling is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's really not about what it's about. What is it really about? Well, one thing we know it's about is that it is you in a very selfish spot. We also know, as we have alluded here today, it's about you trying to get what you want using a tool, and it doesn't really work. See, think about this. When you think of it, what I'm about to say, what comes to mind for you? This will work in the short term. This will work in the short term. Yelling might make you feel good in the short term. This might help you but in the long run, it's not gonna work. What else comes to mind? If you do this one thing right now, oh, it'll feel better. Oh, I just want this so bad. I need this right now. I feel really good. Yeah, I know this is not good for me in the long run, right? You can use your imagination for the gazillion things that come to mind, whether it be abusing alcohol, abusing drugs, whether it be acting out, whether it be, sexual perversion or promiscuity, whether it be cheating or lying or cheating on your taxes or doing something, or eating something like binge eating. There's like a gazillion things that can go into that, and yelling is in that category. So if you think of it this way, yelling is really self-sabotage. Because remember, what are our greatest desires in life and in parenting? Well, our greatest desires, let's just read a couple from question 3 here. We want to feel accepted by our kids, accurately portrayed. We want to feel adequate as parents. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel affection, approval, assistance, attention. Those are just the A's. And do you think this is ever going to happen? You're going to yell at your kids, and your kids are going to turn to you and say, hey, oh my gosh, Dad, I get it now. I get it. Gosh, I'm really glad that you yelled at me like that. I just want you to know, Dad, I really just approve of you and your parenting. And I just really accept you for who you are. Hey, Mom, I gotta tell you, that yell you just gave me, oh gosh, it hit me deep in the heart, Mom. I love you so much. I love you so much. Is there anything I can help you with, assistance? I really want to care for your feelings right now, Mom. And it's really because I get it now. You're yelling, that speech, that really hit me deep. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So step 2 on how to stop yelling is something you've heard me talk a lot about, is really to get to know yourself, study yourself, and label your emotions. I'm working with several adults right now in one-on-one sessions, and their vocabulary for their EQ is extremely low. These are very intelligent, successful adults, and yet they do not know very many words besides these cheesy words like disrespect and anger and frustrated. These words are so dumb. These are words that people use when they don't really know what they feel. Now think of your anger, which is if it's yelling is the tip of the iceberg. You go underneath it and you've got anger, but anger is not a good emotion. It's more of a reaction. It's not best to describe as an emotion. It's more best described as a reaction of what people do that are emotional, right? It's what people do when they are struggling with actually happening. So think of the anger that we feel, or the rage, or the snapping, or the yelling we do is like blood. If my arm was covered in blood right now, you wouldn't know where the wound is because the blood is covering it. But if I take a towel and if I wipe it away, you would see the laceration of where it was. And that's what anger does. It's just it's a symptom, it's a physical sign that there's something deeper going on. And your job is to not focus on the blood, but to go to the spot. And so if I were to tell you I'm feeling betrayed, if I'm feeling unloved, if I'm feeling taken advantage of, I'm feeling unwanted, if I'm feeling powerless, if I'm feeling unappreciated, well then you probably know why I'm angry, right? And I know why I'm angry. So when we think about get to know yourself and label your emotions, this is just a form for you to counsel yourself, to be your own therapist. You talk to yourself. Gosh, I'm so pissed right now, this freaking kid. I'm just about to rage and flip out, or I'm about to punish, or I'm about to avoid or self-medicate. Well, why? What's going on? I don't know what's going on. Well, come on, get to know yourself. I just feel so angry. Remember what Sean said though. What did Sean say? Remember, anger is just, there's something deeper. What's underneath the anger? You know what it is? You know what it is? I'm feeling really taken advantage of. Okay, good. Why? Well, because, I spent $250 on that sporting equipment for their birthday. And it's a lot of money. And here they are, they're just throwing it outside and the dog's crapping on it and the rain's coming. And it's like, I just feel taken advantage of. I feel unappreciated. Well, now you know why you're angry, right? And anger comes in so many different shapes, right? This is so key. For some of you, this is the most important part of this. Anger comes in so many different shapes. We often demonize the angry and the yelling. I have a video about that, how we shouldn't demonize them. In fact, this is just like next week I'll probably do, here's 5 steps to stop avoidance, right? Today, here's just how to stop yelling. I mean, avoidance is just as bad, and I believe it's actually worse than yelling at somebody, is avoiding them or people pleasing them. That's for another time. So, I mean, anger can come in the person who is drinking, 2 glasses of wine every night because they're just stewing with all their anger of what happened. Anger can become in the video game player who just is not sharing their feelings and just letting out that in video games, or the cleaning addict who's just so raged and so enraged at her life and her marriage and her parenting and her kids that he or she just spends hours cleaning. It can become the form of the gossip, that Nancy type that's just going around gossiping at this and blah, blah, blah. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? Oh my gosh, have you heard? It's expressing her anger at her life and her situations, or the complainer, right? Complaining, I don't know. My landlord is just so this, and my husband is just so this, and my boss is just so this. What's really going on inside of that person could be anger. They are really upset at their life and their situations, and they are not managing it well. They're not learning how to use their own power to change their circumstances, and they're just this seething ball of anger that just looks on the surface like this gentle, complaining type. Step 3 is this is super deep. This is super deep. We need more time than some video to go to how deep this is. In fact, I would encourage you, if you're watching this right now, take out a pen and do what I'm about to do. Step 3 is write down the thoughts that are underneath the emotion. Okay? Write down the thoughts that are underneath the emotion. Okay, so we're at these icebergs, right? And on the tip is the tip of the iceberg and the angry outburst. You go a little deeper, and you see underneath the water, you see the emotions, right? The strong emotions, but you got to go down to the core. And at the core, the roots of the tree is our thoughts. Here's an example. Okay, you're having a hard time and you say to yourself, I need a drink. Okay, you have a hard time with somebody, you get emotional, you get your buttons pushed and you say, there's nothing I can do here. You're having a hard time and you say to yourself, she's so selfish. You're having a hard time and you say, she doesn't even care about me. Doesn't even care. You're having a hard time and you say to yourself, gosh, I need some alone time. I got to get away. Can you see how the most powerful voice in our own lives is our own voice? So if you really want to make yourself an angry person, if you really want to stop this habit of yelling or snapping, well then continue to talk to yourself in the same way. Isn't this really interesting? You see how deep we're going here? So if you want to, use the group chat right now. It's a super vulnerable question. I'll be vulnerable right now and I'll go first. Write down 1 or 2 toxic things you sometimes say to yourself that is actually at the core base is actually the fuel that's lighting the fire. It's actually the real reason why you're getting angry. It's not because of your emotions actually. Underneath the emotions is you get emotional because of how you are thinking about the topic. Case in point, you see some homeless hobo dude on the side of the road. He's acting like a weirdo and he's saying crazy stuff. You don't get emotional. It doesn't bother you. Why? Well, because of the way you think about it. You think, I don't know this guy. I know my best to you. He's a nobody to me. He's a homeless dude. I mean, I guess I could feel bad for him if I wanted to, but I'm not really in the mood for feeling bad. I'm just going to ignore him. This is what we think. And because we think this way, we don't get crazy and we don't get emotional. If you want to let your 6-year-old drive you nuts, Well, then go for it. You know what to do. It's not that hard. You know what to say. If you want to let your 15-year-old drive you bonkers, you want to give your power away to your 15-year-old, then do it. You know what to do and you know what to say to yourself. You can fill your mind with toxic sludge. Like, let's say, what would a 15-year-old parent, what would a parent of a 15-year-old do if they really wanted to jack up their own mind? They would say like stupid stuff to themselves like, I'm a bad parent, and this kid's gonna be a loser when they're grown up, and there's nothing I can do for this kid. I have no voice in their life. All they do is care about screens, and I don't wanna get them angry. I don't wanna push them too hard. They don't even care about my feelings, so I won't even try. See this? See that? See, if you think that way, then you just sabotage yourself. So step 4 out of 5 is such good news. Step four out of 5. Let's see, did anybody type anything? Oh, looks like we did get somebody to type something. There's an awesome book called Nonviolent Communication. Stacy, thank you, Stacy. If you've experienced yelling or abuse, you've most likely internalized it, despite positive intent. Interesting, you're right, despite positive intent. I'm actually gonna refer to that in a second. And the reactive response can be involuntary, right? It can be a part of trauma. It can be a part of how we are, like experiencing things. Like, a good example is like I was in a traumatic event at a beach, a very, very horrible event at a beach about 10 years ago. So whenever I go to the beach, I have like flashbacks of that event. And so that's kind of what she's referring to. It takes us back. So we're living in 2023, but we're actually not here mentally. We're relating back to what's happened. She writes, there are more resources about what people should do when they are than there are resources actually modeling it. Interesting, Stacey. I'd love to get your thoughts on that in about 2 minutes. Modeling it, right? This is, I think, why I enjoy making these videos, and I think why people like making it is I do this like role playing. I like act it out. Act it out. Like, this is what it sounds like. This is what it's like. So thank you. So step 4 is become great at self-care. If you want to put yourself on some medications, go for it. Do it. Don't let me stop you from doing it. There's some great meds out there. But you know what? I have found, and I just say this with a lot of confidence, but I apologize if I offend anybody, is like, guys, there's a whole world out there of self-care. There's beautiful people, there's beautiful friends, there's beautiful lakes, there's beautiful stand-up paddle boards, there's great yoga, there's great bikes, there's great motorcycles. And there's just so many great things to do to say, I'm not gonna be this selfish person that's just raging at people when I don't get my way. I'm gonna then do the hard work of just caring for myself and putting my mind in a place so that when I'm around these children, when I'm around this spouse who I love, I'm gonna be the best version of myself, and I'm gonna charge my own battery. And when you've heard me say this before, and I take this, I practice what I preach. During hard times, we need lots of self-care. If every day is hard for you, it means every day you've got to prioritize time for yourself. Become great at that. Human beings can become great at anything. You want to become great at ballet, you can do that. Now, I'm not going to do that because I'm not really into ballet, but I could do that if I wanted to. You could become great at anything. That is the power of the human mind. Isn't that just amazing? So if you want to be great at not only not yelling, but then teaching others how to not yell, you could do that. It is an amazing thing to be a human being. We are so powerful. We are so flexible when we develop those atomic habits to get us there. And step 5 and I teach this to a lot of my clients, especially those adults that are stuck in these painful patterns, or these college kids that I'm working with. Oh my gosh, I can tell you some crazy stories, horrible stories about what's happening to some of these college kids today with screens. Oh my gosh. What I've learned, and I've had to learn this from personal experience too, is step 5 on how to stop yelling is you've got to hate your pattern. You've got to hate your addiction. You've got to get to the point where you despise it, and you are ready to change, and you will do everything in your power to stop. So how do we stop yelling? First, you've got to convince yourself. It doesn't work. So this goes way deeper than convincing yourself you have a problem. I see on the TikTok comments on my videos, people have no problem admitting they have problems. Like, that's kind of cool, but it's kind of overrated. Like, people say, yeah, I'm bad at that. It's hard. Yeah, I'm not good at that. Like, that kind of bothers me. It's like they're just like admitting that they're sucking at this thing in parenting and they're sucking at this thing in life. And they think it's like good for them just to admit it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not convincing yourself this is not working. Step 2 is you've really got to study yourself. The greatest person in the world to study is yourself. The only person to really know more than you can know anyone else is your own self. Number 3 is you've got to really figure out what is you are pushing your own button. What are the toxic thoughts that are actually fueling this? You change those thoughts, you change your life. You change your mind, you change your life. Step 4 is become great at self-care. That's really good news. Like, I got a little mountain on my hat here today. It's just amazing how many lovely people and lovely things are out there, and till we can fill our lives with love and connection. And you've got to hate these patterns and addictions. Thanks so much for letting me share this with you, everybody.